Hey everybody, this is Nisha Raghavan, and I'm with a wonderful guest in the HR space. He's famous as a rock star speaker. He is the CEO of Hospitality on Point, Jim Knight.
Hey
Hey
guys,
Jim, how are you doing?
I'm doing very good, very good. Busy, but very happy.
Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us, Jim.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. Actually, I heard your session on Culture That Rocks at Oklahoma Shrimp Conference, and that was really inspiring.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. So, before we talk about that topic, I would like to go through a brief introduction about you so that a few of my audience who don't know about you can know a little bit about you.
Sure, I'd love to. Well, geez, maybe just a real quick start from the beginning. You said I was in human resources, which was not what I thought I was going to do in my life. I went to college actually to be a musician, a professional singer, and I do have my music degree. But I found something out when I went to college that to make a living, you actually had to be good. So I wasn't the best singer in the world. I could hold a note, but I changed careers. They say those they can't do teach. And so I became a middle school teacher. And I did that for 6 years. Absolutely loved it. It was great. But I started to need a little bit more money. You know how school teachers are. In the summertime, they're not working. And so I took a summer job at a Hard Rock Cafe where I was a restaurant host. My hair did not go up in those days. It went down. I actually had a very long mullet, but I thought it was a cool mullet at the time. And I really liked it. I was a host, seating tables, ultimately a manager, and I started liking that night job a lot better than my teaching job during the day. So I stayed at Hard Rock for 21 years, and I absolutely loved it. And so while I was there, most of my time, as you mentioned, was in training and development, in learning and development, and all of that underneath human resources. But as you know from when we were together in Oklahoma, my desire to go out and try and impact the world a little bit differently and have more influence with my messaging, I retired from corporate life about a year ago and have started my own companies. I do a little professional speaking. I'm writing my first book. I don't know if that's wood, but hopefully by September it'll be in print. And as you said, I have a consulting business called Hospitality on Point. So in a nutshell, I get to still use my music, my teaching, my rock and roll roots, and now I get to play in other industries. So it's fun.
That is an inspiring story.
Oh, thank you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your upcoming book.
Yeah. So it's called Culture That Rocks. So you were lucky to see a session, a class, around the same title. My personal brand, because I've been living for 2 decades in rock and roll, everything is branded. Service that rocks, culture that rocks, employee branding that rocks, philanthropy that rocks, all of that. But I probably get hired more for culture than anything else. Because of the rich heritage of the Hard Rock culture, it just made it where I got exposed to every element that I could think of when it comes to an organizational culture. So the book is going to be about how do you create culture if you're lucky enough to be at the front end. How do you maintain it if perhaps you come on board and you're inheriting a brand, a very important brand. But I probably have a lot of discussions with executives about how do you revolutionize the culture. That for whatever reason, their company is fundamentally broken. That, it's been a couple years. It's not the good old days like they remember from a sales, a profit, from a human capital standpoint. And they can close their eyes and remember what it was like, and they want to get back to the good old days. So when I get a chance to talk about culture, it's like this big, it's huge. And so when I think about it, and you remember this, Nisha, when we were talking in Oklahoma, I use the analogy of an iceberg. That when you see an iceberg, that at the very top, the 10-15%, which is the only thing that people see, that's important. That's what the customer, the client, the consumer sees. I'm more interested in working in the stuff below the surface. The 80 to 85%, the bulk of the stuff, that's our world. That's what human resources does. And I include learning and training and development all underneath that. So I think of everything from the employee life cycle area, from the time you even start thinking about recruiting them, interviewing them, hiring them, training them, inspiring and motivating them, continuously developing them, rewarding them, recognizing them, even separating from them. There should be a system in place in every one of those that says, this is as culturally sound as I can get. And I think if you get that right, it parlays up to that, the top part, I think, of the iceberg that people start to see. So, in a very quick way, I'm sort of giving you some broad brush analogies. Of course, it's deeper and bigger than that, and I can talk about all those things. But, I think a lot of companies, you start to see culture is so important to them. They're focusing on it quite a bit.
Well, talking about creating, maintaining, and revolutionizing the organization cultural aspects, what's your insights for the startup organizations to revolutionize their organization's culture from the very beginning?
Well, from the beginning, I think you hit it right on the head. My world, although I say that I reported up through human resources, I'm not an HR guy. I was a training guy, and so I'm a component. I was a part of HR. And it's funny because my world is smack dab in the middle of that employee life cycle. So I had really nothing to do with how people left the organization, nor how people came into the organization. And that's a little bit sad for me because I think as good as maybe the training infrastructure was, all the best training in the world isn't going to help a bad hire. And so if I really wanted more influence in the company, you know what I should have done? I should have gone back in time and become a recruiter. And I think I could have been so much more effective in the organization. Because in my mind, I would absolutely focus more on character and culture than I would on competence. There's no doubt about it in my mind. I would not be focusing on somebody's experience, whether they had the smarts and the competence to do it. I would be focusing on, do they fit into the brand? And that's becoming more prevalent today. So number one, I'd really make sure I got the right type of person I'm looking for. I would use interview guides. I don't care how good people think they are as an interviewer. Most people in our industry, they are not that great. They suck, quite honestly. It's one of the things we think we're great at, and we're terrible. We open mouth and insert foot all the time. And even me, I think I'm a fairly good interviewer. I would still use, personally, interview guides with very specific, behavioral-based, open-ended, and yes, culturally specific questions so that, number one, I want to make sure I don't miss anything, but number two, that's my communication conduit to give to the next manager. I would absolutely use interview guides in there. And I think between making sure I got the right type of person, making sure that my recruiting ads really fit the brand and they're relevant, making sure I have interview guides, I think I got a much better shot at hiring the person that I want. So if you're talking about making some steps, man, I would 1, 2, 3 right out of the gate. And then when you start handing it over to the training and development guy, he or she's got a really good chance at now perpetuating that person through the rest of the experience.
Well, talking about interviewing, why hiring a right fit matters?
Well, I tell you, I know for a fact, unless you happen to be a standalone entrepreneur working in a kiosk all by yourself, you can do whatever you want to. The reality is, most people in business, most people in our business, we rely on human beings. We rely on human beings who have this awesome human endowment called free will. They're going to do exactly what they want to do anyway, regardless of what you say. Now, I would much rather have people that are bring on board, that are culturally minded, who care about the brand, who are loyal to the brand, who are willing to follow you not because of some compliance, because of some rule, because you told them to, but because of the commitment, because they're loyal to you as an individual. And we know now from the Gallup organization, which validates what we've been talking about forever in HR, which is people join brands, they love brands, they leave individuals, they leave people. So I think at the front end, if we can get enough people to come on board from a cultural standpoint, you got a better chance at hitting the metrics, whatever those metrics are, whatever those measurements are. Go out there and really get the right people. I think you'll be able to hit whatever you want to, but I wouldn't forsake what I was saying before. I really do think there are some people out there that are in a supervisor position, no matter how good the job is, that will run them out, unfortunately. So, I'm the first one to say I need unique people, and I'm on the hunt looking for some freaks, quite honestly, and I say that affectionately. I want people that are a little bit crazy, a little bit off-center. It wasn't just because of Hard Rock. It's because of what I look for now as a consumer. The employees that I have working for me now, I want them to be a little bit crazy. Unique people create unique experiences. So for me, I would go out there and find them. I will say this. This is one of the things I think Hard Rock did very well when I was working there. I equate that organization to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, my favorite cartoon that comes on every year. And it's the part where Rudolph and Hermie the elf, you remember this guy who becomes Hermie the dentist, they stumble upon the island of misfit toys. And I think brands like Apple and Starbucks and Zappos and Hard Rock, I think that they have become the island of misfit toys. They're the place where all the broken toys go to live and play. Remember that place? It's a boat that won't float. They've got a wagon that has square wheels. Instead of a Jack in the Box, they got a Charlie in the Box. Remember that guy? Nobody wants a Charlie in the Box. It was like great.
Cool.
This is the place where all the broken toys go to live and play because they weren't allowed to look or be or act the way that they wanted to at some other place next door. And somebody loved me for the way that I was. And I think brands that open their minds a little bit and change their HR policies a little bit and hire for a cultural fit, man, they're going to be so much happier in the long run. I really do believe that.
Finally, what are your thoughts to the upcoming leaders to become visionary, but at the same time carrying their heritage and nurturing their culture of their organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I have to believe, first off, I got to say heritage is awesome. I love heritage. I love brands that are iconic. I think they've got a great legacy, but I do think the reality is heritage is in the past. And I think the piece that has to come after that is if you're really going to talk about culture, culture is about the present, man. It is about the present and the future. And culture is so fuzzy in a lot of ways, and I think the way that I define it is it's just a collection of individuals. That's all it is, a collection of individual behaviors that get it. So although I love to celebrate the heritage, and I light my big lighter, as if I'm at a rock ballad, at a concert, I get that. But the reality is, you don't want leaders that are going to continue to just focus on the heritage. I need a leader who is inspiring and motivating today. Don't bring the lighter. Bring the blowtorch, man. Light the place on fire. Inspire me, motivate me. I think there's got to be people out there that focus on the today and the here and now. And if you really want to go back to it, Nisha, honestly, it's about going out there and once again recruiting, interviewing, hiring, training. You get that front part right, you're a world beater. You are unstoppable. So I think the leaders, to some degree, inspire me, motivate me, and then get out of the way. Don't stomp on me. I think then you're going to get people that are loyal, and they'll follow you off the cliff. That would kind of be my first really kind of dive in. If you want to fix a culture, just get the individual behaviors around you. Create an army of giants. You'll be in a good place.
And my final question would be, final and last question. Yeah. So last question would be, what's your advice to the young HR professionals to help their organization elevate their organization's culture?
Yeah, so I like the question. I think it's good. I will say that it gets a little bit tough to some degree in some organizations where the new HR, the new training, the new recruiting person who's coming into an organization, if it's in this tough space, if they're in what I call the vicious circle, they're going to have to make some broad changes, and maybe it's a little step at a time, but they're going to have to make some changes for sure. But I think for people that are just coming into the organization, you can't get discouraged because of the way things perhaps they've always been. You can't get discouraged because perhaps your boss isn't doing the things that you want him to do. You can definitely make a change. I think if you think positively about stuff, if you open your mind and not just get stuck in the melees, the middle of the road, the vanilla ice cream that everybody else is doing, I think if you think about being the chocolate, look for opportunities to be different, I think you got a great place. I do think that a person, and I'm being serious about this, I think that a person with a great idea can start a revolution. I think that's how countries get overthrown. I think that's how companies get to an inflection point to change. And I don't think, no matter the level, unless you're the top CEO where you can make sweeping change all the time, I think anybody can make a change. The right person with a great idea can start a revolution. You should be that person. Be the catalyst.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Jim. Well, every time I listen to your session, you just inspire me and you just inspire entire audience. And thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me and for your valuable thoughts.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope we do it again.
Yes, we would.
Great. That was your last question.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure.